The Elder Scrolls Blades, Main Story and Lore. The Legend of Airyus. And so begins his story, hailing from an unknown village and tucked far away in the land of Skyrim. Airyus leaves his hometown for the Imperial City. There, he honed his skills as a noble warrior and became a member of the Order of the Blades. Airyus was thrilled as he made many friends in the Order. However, he would soon be forced to flee due to the Great War and the Treaty of the White Gold Concordat, invoked by Emperor Titus Mede II. The Great War was fought between the Third Aldmeri Dominion and the Third Empire. The events of this war occurred after the Oblivion Crisis, the events of the Elder Scrolls IV or Oblivion, and before those of the Elder Scrolls V, also known as Skyrim. The treaty was the only means to end the conflict for the Empire. However, it heavily favored the Aldmeri Dominion. Airyus knew what was coming next, so he fled from the Imperial City back to his hometown in the far reaches of Skyrim. Among its terms were the outlawing of the worship of Talos, the disbandment of the Order of the Blades, and the right for the Thalmor to move throughout Skyrim to hunt down both worshippers of Talos and any remaining blades. After being forced to leave the Imperial City, and after a long, hard journey home, Airyus had hoped that the Thalmor had already made their way through his town. Upon his arrival, he finds mercenaries blocking the path, telling him to turn around. The mercenaries are no match for Airyus, and after they surrender to him, he learns that they were hired by the Bloodfall Queen to collect taxes from the townspeople. The townspeople did not want to pay, so that made the mercenaries resort to more violent persuasion tactics. The founder statue in the middle of the town was destroyed inadvertently, and fire began erupting from the remains of the statue. This is what the mercenaries told Airyus after his questioning. Troubled by the news, he ran towards the gates to find Junius the Elder, one of the founding members of the town, who has also known Airyus since he was little. He goes on to tell him that the townsfolk suspected that he was dead. They all thought Airyus was killed by the Thalmor. Junius also goes on to describe what happened when the town statue was destroyed by the fire. There was something odd about the fire as it turned green and shot up into the sky. Alternatively, the sky turned cloudy and filled with thunder and lightning as an eerie darkness crept over the town. The green flames rained back onto the town and set it on fire, including the outside perimeter and the walls. We also learn at the time that the mayor of the town was killed while cowardly hiding in the town hall instead of helping the townspeople. This left the town leaderless and in major disarray. Junius asks Airyus for help in rebuilding the town and looking for survivors. Airyus then embarks on multiple quests, fighting mercenaries and goblins to help capture and return townsfolk to their homes safely. On these quests, Airyus also finds Lond, the town blacksmith, and upon their safe return, Airyus helps Lond rebuild the blacksmith as well as the town hall for the people. The will of these townfolk is strong, and Airyus was proud to see his people proving their resilience even in the face of adversity. Once they get a chance to rest, Lond tells Airyus of his old mentor, Henrik Sevenswords, who has been hiding out in the arena north of town. Both Airyus and Henrik are fully elated to see each other, as it has been many years. Henrik had been training Airyus since he was a young child, but he has not seen him fight ever since. The two blades engaged in a sparring match and returned together back to town to help rebuild. While on another quest to rescue more townsfolk, Airyus finds Saashi, the town lore master, being held captive by bandits. They return to the town to find some interesting news. It turns out, while clearing the rubble of the statue, the villagers find a tunnel leading underneath the town. As the lore master, the townsfolk all turn to Saashi to explain where the tunnel leads. However, Saashi, although having knowledge of the town, was unaware of any tunnels underneath the town. Henrik, Saashi, and the townsfolk all turned to Airyus to see if he knew anything. Having explored many different provinces, Airyus knew that he was probably the most equipped out of all the people here, and promised to investigate the tunnels and see if there were any clues that could tell him more detail about the green flames that destroyed the town. With only a torch and his weapons, Airyus continues through the tunnel until he finds a separate, more solid structure that appeared alien in origin. Having disturbed a place of death, Airyus turns to fight skeevers and other undead creatures, only to discover an ancient sarcophagus that appears to have been recently opened. Airyus returns to the surface to explain to Saashi the details of the undead and the sarcophagus. Saashi recalled some ancient texts that alludes to a seal that may have been enchanted on the statue and subsequently broken upon the founder statue's destruction. This enchantment being broken would explain the green fire, according to Saashi. Airyus, Junius, and Henrik gather together around the newly rebuilt alchemy lab, where Leah Jean brewed up some potions and great ale. They spoke about the recent events and what would be best for the future of the town. Junius felt that investigating the Ayleid ruins under the founder statue would be a good start. However, Henrik also mentioned that he was working with an informant to gain intel on the Bloodfall Queen. So far, they learned that there is discourse among the Bloodfall Queen's court, and that there may be an opportunity to deal with her if needed. Airyus then suggests that Saashi explore the ruins under the town, but only up to the parts that Airyus had already cleared out. After learning more about the Bloodfall Queen from Henrik's informant, he would return to help Saashi explore deeper into the ruins for more clues. Airyus then makes his way to the mercenary hideout. When they refuse to talk with him, they also turn to attack. As an avid member of the Order of the Blades, Airyus handily defeated the poorly trained mercenaries. Upon seeing his crew dispatched so easily, the mercenary leader goes on to tell Airyus that the statue being destroyed was an accident. The only intention was to scare the townspeople into paying taxes so that the Bloodfall Queen could continue to fund her army with mercenaries to protect the realm. This was an unfortunate side effect of the town and the surrounding areas being ravaged by the Great War. The Queen was furious with her mercenaries and refused to pay them for blundering a simple tax collection. This caused discourse among her court. Many of her mercenaries left to join the Green Cat bandits, leaving her only with her most trusted and loyal advisors and warriors. It was also after the destruction of the statue that the activity of the undead increased 100-fold. There were 100 times more undead out roaming the land than normal, most likely due to the destruction of the founder's statue. With the Queen unable to defend the realm, since most of her army, funded by mercenaries, have abandoned their posts, the entirety of the realm was in grave danger. Airyus returns to the town to inform Henrik of the intel he gathered. He leaves Henrik and Junius to discuss next steps as he joins Saashi down in the Ayleid ruins. Airyus proceeds to clear out additional rooms towards the rear of the ruins, and they determine that the ruins are actually an ancient burial chamber for an Ayleid necromancer, the ruler of the kingdom back in the First Era. He was the most ruthless, evil ruler of the times, so evil in fact that upon his defeat, the mages and warriors struck his deeds from the history records, so Saashi couldn't even learn his real name. Additional exploration uncovers a hidden chamber of the ruins, and it's there that Saashi and Airyus discover a tablet with ancient Ayleid runes inscribed on its surface. Saashi recognizes the language, and they both return to the surface to update Junius the Elder. Upon learning of this new information, Junius is both shocked and surprised to learn of how old the town really is. Having lived in the town all his life, he still had no idea about this dark history. He then suggests that Airyus pay a visit to the Bloodfall Queen to also inform her of what they have discovered. He felt that this could be a good chance to form an alliance in an effort to preserve all their lives. On his way to the Bloodfall Queen's castle, Airyus sees that it's about to be overrun by hordes of undead. Seeing no other option, Airyus unleashes the full might of Dawnbreaker against the armies of the undead about to overwhelm the castle. It's an ancient sword that deals fire damage and additional fire damage to the undead. They were unprepared for the might of Airyus. And it was a good thing. The queen and her men were on their last legs of defense. Turns out Airyus arrived just in time. This made it easier for the queen and Airyus to talk. She told him of how many of her men were killed during the Great War and that she has been using mercenaries to protect the town from the Green Cap Bandits, a group who have been taking advantage of the people and their misfortunes left in the aftermath of the Great War. She stressed to Airyus that the destruction of his town was not her intention, but she needed the funds to continue keeping the realm safe from the Green Cap Bandits and goblins. And now, even more for the undead. In their discussion, she also mentions that she found an old scroll and some enchanted stones amongst the rubble in the founder statue. Airyus returns to town with this new information as well as an envoy from the queen to act as a messenger and keep an open line of communication with the Bloodfall Queen. Upon his return, he speaks to Saashi, who has completed translating the ancient tome. It tells that the tomb belongs to the ancient sorcerer king Selamaril Lightbringer. He was a tyrant, true and pure. According to Theodore Gorlash, Selamaril didn't know if he wanted to rule the world or destroy it. With his necromancy, he used his powers to conjure up armies of undead to bring chaos and disaster to the people of the realm. His brother Valentus gained support of other Ayleid kings and rose up against his brother Selamaril. We also learn that his brother Valentus used his powers to seal Selamaril in the tomb below the town, and used the statue, which was actually a statue of himself, as a conduit for the seal. After more research, Saashi learns the resting place of Valentus and suggests that Airyus go there to see if there are any clues that could help them to defeat Selamaril. Their entry into the ruins must have disturbed the ghost of Valentus, or perhaps he had sensed the darkness coming as a result of his brother being freed. In any case, he guided Airyus and Saashi to his burial chamber, where a mural on the wall showed a great battle between Selamaril and his undead armies against Valentus and his allies. The mural showed the binding process Valentus used on his brother. With these new clues, Saashi and Airyus returned to the town to see if they could connect any more clues together based on what they already know now. Unfortunately, Saashi's Ayleid knowledge was not enough, and Airyus had to go and seek out a renowned sage named Tellarendil. His last known whereabouts were some ancient Ayleid ruins on the outskirts of the province. Airyus and Saashi make it out to him just in time to find Tellarendil about to be overran by a horde of undead. Dispatching the creatures was light work for Airyus, and they returned safely back to the town. Tellarendil finished translating the rest of the tablet, and cross-referencing the mural, they confirmed that the old world was at war against Selamaril Lightbringer. Valentus and the other Ayleid kings were able to defeat his armies. Furthermore, they learned that Valentus used an elder scroll to bind Selamaril to the crypt beneath the town. Once they learned this, Airyus quickly leaves for the queen's fortress, but returns to find her castle being overrun once again by the undead. A large horde of creatures, along with sorcerers sent by Selamaril to retrieve the elder scroll for themselves and prevent the second binding of their master. Airyus once again saves the queen, only to learn that the scroll was stolen. He returns to town to question the townsfolk and see if he can dig up clues to the whereabouts of the scroll's location. All the leads turn out to be a bust, except for a lead that came from a traveling Dunmer merchant. He informs Airyus about a particular keep he passed on his travels that had an unusually high volume of undead activity. While investigating this, Airyus confronts an alien lich that actually had the Elder Scroll on its possession and easily defeats it to bring the scroll back to Saashi. However, without knowing how to activate the Elder Scroll, Saashi and Airyus are unable to determine how to bind Selamaril. Saashi then recalls a source who may know how to activate the Elder Scroll. Airyus asks Saashi to identify her source. Although she's reluctant at first, she goes on to tell him that her source is an ancient dragon who survived the Dragon Wars, goes by the name Shulkanak. Befuddled and curious about how a simple Khajiit could befriend a dragon, Airyus went and journeyed to the dragon's lair, where there he was tested in both mental and physical combat. Upon reaching Shulkanak's chamber, Airyus tells him of the return of Selamaril Lightbringer. The dragon agrees to help, but challenges Airyus to test his honor in combat. After proving worthy to receive the dragon's help, Shulkanak tells Airyus that Selamaril is immortal and cannot be killed. Rather, the solution is to bind his spirit using an Elder Scroll. Since the Elder Scroll Airyus has acquired can affect all possible futures, Shulkanak tells Airyus that he must bind his spirit to a future where Selamaril fails to escape his tomb. In order to complete the binding ritual, the dragon goes on to say that Selamaril's physical form must be defeated before his spirit can be bound. Once defeated, only a person with a pure heart, wearing the ancient lost crown of Selamaril, can complete the ritual. Unfortunately, the dragon did not know the location of the crown, so Airyus returned to town to inform Saashi of what he had learned. Saashi goes on to suggest that the founder statue of Valentus should be rebuilt so that they could complete the binding ritual with the Elder Scroll. She also states that she knows of a treasure hunter that specializes in alien relics and also happens to be her cousin. She sends Airyus on his way to meet Majala, her treasure hunter cousin. After finding Majala, Airyus is successfully able to enlist his help. He tells Airyus of an alien ruin that could hold clues on the location of the crown. However, it turns out that Majala was under the employ of the necromancers working for Selamaril, and they ambush Airyus inside the alien ruin. Not knowing about Airyus's history as a blade, they were not prepared for what happened next. Instead of a sword and shield, Airyus quickly unsheathed his prized two-hander, Shadowrend, a legendary weapon that could morph into a magic-drained sword or a stamina-drained axe. Knowing his enemies, his weapon unsheathed as a beautifully crafted dragonbone greatsword. Terror filled the eyes of the necromancers as they didn't even have time to scream before their lives were quickly ended by a skill they've never seen before. Equally terrified of what he had just witnessed, Majala begged for forgiveness, saying that his life was in jeopardy as the necromancers got to him first. But Airyus was merciful and spared his life. Majala then agreed to take Airyus to the real location of the crown. On their journey, Airyus asks how Majala met the necromancers and how they knew Airyus would be looking for the crown. It turns out that there was a spy in the court of the Bloodfall Queen, and they have been relaying all of the information back to their necromancer overlords. Majala also reveals that the spy is the Queen's mage. More concerned with the mage spy, Airyus returns to Saashi to tell her of what he learned. Airyus then immediately leaves for the Queen's keep, where he had the Queen confront the mage. The mage creates a distraction and escapes through a secret door, but Airyus is quick on his feet and manages to capture the mage before he could flee, and return him to the Queen, where she would torture him until she learns everything she needs. Airyus did not dispute the Queen's wisdom and then turned his focus back on the lost crown of Selamaril. He catches up with Majala and is able to retrieve the crown from the swarm of undead attempting to get it for Selamaril himself. He returns to town with the lost crown in hand, meaning that the only thing left needed is the incantation to invoke the binding ritual. Not having any leads, Airyus begins asking around town and runs into Thalmor agents led by a fierce Thalmor spell sword named Arinande. She was sent to this province to investigate the undead problem, while looking for Talos worshippers and any remnants of the Order of the Blades. Airyus risks being recognized by the Thalmor to determine if they had any leads. He told them of the impending doom to all of the realm if they were not able to get the incantation, and how it was imperative that they learn of its whereabouts quickly. There was a rumor going about town regarding an old enchanter who was a descendant of the Valentis bloodline. The Thalmor were also hunting the enchanter, as he was a known Talos priest and has been preaching illegally about the power of Talos, which was banned in Skyrim during the Aldmeri Dominion occupation. His name was Martin Gavinius, and Arenande wanted him killed, and she would only give him the location if Airyus would agree to kill him for them. Airyus only agreed to do this because this was the only way they would give him the information he needed. And he ventured out to find Martin Gavinius, the old enchanter. After finding him and agreeing to spare his life, Martin tells Airyus that he doesn't know the incantation, but he has an amulet that will allow him to speak to the dead. Airyus recalled that the spirit of Valentis was the one who guided him in the crypt to the clues he needed to find in the first place, and agreed that the plan would work. Airyus then quickly travels to the tomb of Valentis. Using the amulet, he learns the incantation and that the binding ritual requires 5 enchanted Varla stones placed on the statue with the Elder Scroll. Finally having all the information he needed, Airyus travels back to town where he learns that Junius the Elder has an old scaled model of the statue that they could use to have it rebuilt. Using the Elder Scroll and the scale model, the statue of Valentis was recreated exactly as it was, but the 5 enchanted Varla stones were still missing. Wanum, the Queen's envoy, tells Airyus that after torturing the mage, they learned that the Varla stones are being kept at the shrine of Mara nearby, guarded by undead and necromancers. This was no problem for Airyus, as he handily retrieved the stones and placed them inside the statue. The power was immediately felt by the undead and Selamaril himself, and they all gathered in the arena outside the town to launch an assault. This was their chance. Airyus prepared to confront and defeat the physical form of the necromancer, while Saashi was chosen for her pure heart to recite the incantation and complete the binding ritual. The battle was fierce, but with the power of Shadowrend and Dawnbreaker, Airyus emerged victorious over the undead and their master, Selamaril Lightbringer. Saashi then completes the binding ritual, and the realm is safe once again, with Selamaril's spirit bound forever as long as the statue still stands. Although the story doesn't end here, as there are still many more quests and side quests to complete, including successfully eluding the Thalmor and the oppression they continue to bring to the people of Skyrim.